Let me share my screen.
Right.
Yes. All right, so it's my first topic. Yes, so it's Google Summer of Code time. We are participating, and I have posted now on the list talking about this. Well, oh, wow, this is actually nice and frozen. Wait a second. Posted on the list about it. We have a couple of ideas that are up there now. Technically, anybody can propose any idea that they like. And the post that's linked here briefly kind of discusses some link to the template in here that folks would use. I don't get to choose who gets picked. It's the vote of Google mentors from INCF. So everybody is supposed to make sure that the students that come in have the best applications possible. Just well considered, and the timelines look good, and so and there's 2 days left, so the deadline is on Friday. I've been a bit overwhelmed by talking to folks that are coming in and sending emails back, and so actually have not gotten as much done this month because of that, but it's all pretty good to get some good folks coming in, and we already have several that are identified. So yeah, so that's the Google Summer Code topic. Jorg, did you want to say something more about that?
Nope, it's just nope, nothing more.
Okay. Very good. So yes, if you know of other folks who should be applying, please send them into the application. We are very grateful to the INCF for being the umbrella organization under which we are operating. So thanks to them. And yep.
Do we know how many applications we've gotten so far?
Looks like our folks who are applying are waiting until the last minute, which they shouldn't be. But, I've seen many applications come through INCF. I still haven't seen any from any that are aimed at our ideas. But I know of like
on the discussion list, though, right?
Yeah, there's a discussion list.
But no, there was a few people saying I want to do summer of code on discussion.
Yeah. I'm just saying in terms of folks that have actually put applications into the system on Google.
Okay.
They haven't come out yet, so I think there's going to be a big push here in the next few days. So, Yep. Okay. We released a guest blog post today. It was written by Lav Varshney, who was the first author of one of the Connectome papers that we use data for. So that just went out. So we really appreciate Lav writing us up. It's actually been sitting in the queue for a little while, so we're glad we just finally got that out as well. But it's a pretty cool contribution from the community, so we just put it out on social media as well. All right. Okay, so big picture stuff. Started talking about big picture stuff last time. Matteo, unfortunately, I believe is on the road right now, and so can't join us, as he is the original author of this diagram here, which I'll zoom out to, this big picture diagram here. But I did just want to spend 5 minutes and just kind of walk through this, because I think in the spirit of hooking together many different efforts, this is now an evolving diagram that helps to show what's happening, big picture, so people can kind of see, and also kind of points out some gaps in what we're doing, because we've been doing this for a while now. There's a lot of code, there's a lot of repos, there's a lot of documentation, there's all sorts of stuff. This is another take that Matteo put together on the big picture that's probably better than the project view diagram that we've had before. So let me just walk through it. One of the puzzles of this is exactly where to start. But I think as good place as any is the end user, and pointed at WormSim. So the design of kind of what we've been working on now, and Giovanni's going to present a WormSim here in a minute, is that folks can come from the outside world and can use some interface that allows them to see the products of the model. So the arrows coming off of here down below is that WormSim is built on top of Geppetto. And so it's using Geppetto, which of course can also be used for many other things. Geppetto is also using other systems like Neuron Simulator, for example. And it has coming into it different inputs like NeuroMel and LEMS models of nervous system and particle model from Cybernetic of the body. Another thing coming into WormSim, though, directly is NeuroMel that's defining the neurons in the muscles. So this is sort of the model part. As well as, skinned mesh animations. In the current version of WormSim that's being put out, we'll have animations that are sort of lighter weight to transport over the web. And these come out of another process that we'll walk through. So these are the main features. Hang on just 1 second, guys. Actually, have somebody at the door. 1 second. Yeah.
So actually, is there anything that's obviously, if anybody's given a quick look at this, anything that's obviously missing from this? I mean, we don't want to know anybody by leaving out there.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. There might be, but well, there are things that are explicitly missing in terms of those question marks and boxes. Let me keep walking through some of those parts. Okay, so WormSim is the thing where folks where stuff is exposed to the end user, and it's the combination of this skin mesh animation, neuromuscular NML, and where those other pieces sort of coming from. So let's start with the neuromuscular NML. So this is in the middle of a chain that combines both muscle model NeuroMel and General C. elegans NeuroMel with full morphologies for the neurons. This kind of comes out of the project of doing nervous system modeling. There's also C302, which is in this particular rendering, separate from this one with the full morphologies. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but is the way that it's represented here. And these are sort of combined together in a process which, at least Matteo marked as sort of a gap in terms of putting into a single combined model, which I think would be C. elegans NeuroMel project. But so that's one gap that was sort of identified there. The inputs into this are the muscle modeling endeavor that we're doing in the muscle team, as well as nervous system modeling, which is not just C302. I think the lines between these things are a little blurred, but that's there. And then the plan, or the sort of the design, is that these things are using information that's coming out of PyOpenWorm, which is a place where anatomical worm data is being put in, and and NeuroMel models can come out. And so there's a question there about overlapping. Okay, and then where the neuromuscular NML also goes, in terms of actually a model that's running, is to produce muscle activation systems by being run through a system which maybe uses Neuron or maybe uses NeuroMel, sure, and then connects to Cybernetic, the mechanical model of the body, and fits into a space where we can then render a visualization of the body. So Cybernetic is a particle-based simulation. In this process here, which goes back to WormSim, there's an additional step that's been put in, which Giovanni will be showing some of the results of, where we're actually extracting a skeleton from that particle-based simulation, and that's what is going into this skin mesh animation. And then the other piece is where movement validation fits into that. And Theo and Michael went over this a bit in a meeting earlier this month. But here, there's another step where we can get out videos of a simulated worm or directly extract features from these skin mesh animations, as well as combining them with the videos of real worms that we've seen and put them into this block where we're doing the comparisons of the difference between simulated worm and real worm. And then there's this additional step, what might come out of that, where we might have extracted features, and we might also be able to show that in Geppetto, although maybe not strictly necessary. So this node that's in the middle shows a distinction between an end user and a modeler. The modeler is sort of involved in the middle of all this with these with a lot of these red arrows, which indicate steps that are not quite there yet. But the modeler is sort of in the middle of this space where he's taking inputs of what extracted features exist, and he's doing things like making updates to the muscle model, making updates to the nervous system model, maybe using additional tools like optimal neuron, maybe using Geppetto to see the results of things running, or maybe using other tools as well. So that's what this is in a nutshell trying to capture, is the relationships between what end users are getting, what modelers are doing with modeling, and some of the flows between some of the different pieces and parts of the project. So comments?
Well, that's a good overview of the project at the moment. I mean, it seems to reflect more the project in its current form rather than maybe a bit further down the road when it's all the pipeline, the full optimization pipeline for matching the videos and the real and simulated worm are matched up. But I mean, as a representative.
Oop. Are folks losing? Can folks hear Pork?
I'm not recording.
Okay. Oh, hey, Andre. Nice to see you. Okay, I'll give him a couple seconds to pop back in. No. Okay. You may be back in a moment. Any other comments though on this?
It was good.
Why is it so? The Cybernetics kind of joining into things kind of late in the game in the Geppetto block there. Is that what's the rationale behind that?
Which part? You mean?
Well, I see down here, you know, as Cybernetic and is going into Geppetto, and WormSim is going into Geppetto, and that's kind of where they match up. That's where they integrate.
Yeah, so there's this one here where the output of Cybernetic gets turned into this
there it is over there. Okay,
mesh
sorry.
animation.
Missed it. Yeah. Oh, that's that part. Okay, missed it. Sorry.
Yep. No, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that piece that Tom, that piece that the blue piece at the bottom left that says cybernetic particle model, that is the there is in Geppetto there is a porting of the cybernetic algorithm, and that represents the declarative file with all the particles that Geppetto can run at the moment, because there is a porting from the C++ algorithm that is represented by the box at the top right. So that's why there's twice Cybernetic. One is the actual engine that Andre and Sergey developed, which is that box in the top right. The other one is just a file that defines initial conditions for an SPH simulation that Geppetto can run, because we ported the original engine into a solver inside Geppetto as well.
I see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, so Geppetto can read NeurML or LAMPS or the cybernetic particle model, which is just a declarative list of particles with velocities and positions. And then from that point on, it can run the simulation independently from the original code base. But the original code base is the only thing that at the moment can simulate something at the scale of the worm, because you can just turn it on and let it go for a couple of days, and then, as the guys did, produce those nice videos. And it doesn't have problems with transferring stuff over the network. It doesn't have problems with any of that because it's just something you run on your cluster or something you run on your local environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I would also point out that the color code here in the legend is stuff that is existing in some form is in this solid blue with a squiggle and a blue line. Suggests in progress. Things that are in blue but with clear boxes are things that are in progress. And then apparently there's some, yes, so there's some stuff that's external to the project, stuff that we aren't building. And then red lines are things that are missing, and looks like this yellow-orange color is stuff that is uncertain. So this is intended to be a living diagram that's intended to change as we go. So I actually already see things that I would want to update as well, but this is exactly the purpose, is for folks that are working in different pieces and parts of the project, different bits. We're back. Can't hear him yet. Okay, you are here, but okay. Did you want to type out a question at the moment? Or did anybody else want to make a comment? Okay. Okay, very good. So thanks, guys, for bearing with me for that. I think big picture is important. All right, so other stuff that I want to get to as well. So this is still the goals document from before, which is summarizing the 2015 stuff. I think a lot of next steps are kind of captured by that big picture structure. We can talk about more of the details of that. Folks are still on the Gitter chat rooms. There's still activity happening over there. Please check in on that stuff. There's good discussions that are happening. And now, in terms of structure of this meeting, as we said, we were going to give 15 or 20 minutes to kind of feature one thing. Today, Giovanni is presenting WormSim, but we need a volunteer to talk about some more detailed stuff for next time. And wondering who would like to volunteer for that. Porg is already gone. Andre or Sergey, do you guys want to present something at length at our next meeting in a month? Or Tom?
I really don't have anything at this point, but I'd like to, if Andre or Sergey is, that would be great. So I'd vote for them.
Andre, do you have like some topic that you can speak on for like 15, 20 minutes and introduce us to like the latest stuff that you've been doing for next meeting?
Oh, 20 minutes is not so much. I can speak about almost everything in this role. Well, I'm sure that, for example, Cybernetic is not that thing which will be good to discuss. Or, well, I'll think about what to speak about.
Okay, so you're on for next time, and you'll come up with a topic.
Okay. Yes.
I'll remind you. Okay. Terrific. Great. Well, then let's go on to Giovanni to tell us what's the latest with WormSim and show us some stuff.
Okay. So I'll share my screen and pick it up from there. Okay. So as you know, WormSim is a container project that is main purpose is to bring to probably non-expert users, general public kind of users, but also scientists. So it needs to be accessible by both categories. Whatever we're doing in the context of OpenWorm, make it accessible easily on, through the web. So as you know, we got this work funded from the Kickstarter. And today I'm gonna pretty much summarize for everybody what it is that we're doing and where we are, show some stuff, some results, and talk a little bit about how it's going. So the first thing that I want to say is that this is truly a team effort, because pretty much a very large number of OpenWorm team members have been involved in the process so far. And this thing that I'm sharing right now is what we did at the start. We created a use cases document that everybody should have access to, and if people are watching and are curious about the access, read this document, they can ask for access. And
you zoom up on it a little bit too, so folks can see the diagram.
I'll do that. Okay. So this is pretty much this document is kind of fluid. We don't expect it to change much, but we did a lot of work defining use cases of what the actual application is going to look like when it's done. And there's mock-ups, there's screens, there's discussions in the comments, there's all the use cases, everything that has to do with user interaction. So of course I'm not going to go through everything here because it's too much. It takes 2 hours. We went through several iterations of this, building mock-ups, building the way that, thinking about how it's going to look, thinking about user interaction a lot, and how to make it usable. And then, interesting enough, I would recommend everybody to just have a glance at this application flow that explains the paths that the user can take through the application, from the landing page that they arrive on to what they can do, pretty much. And now I'm going to show you stuff. I don't want to talk through diagrams and stuff. I just want to show you some stuff. And as I go through, I'll mention who's helping to do what. The first thing that I want to show you is after doing the work of defining what the thing is going to look like, so that we wouldn't be making it up as we went along. We of course defined the use cases, and then we started working on the waffle board that it's public. So if you go to the waffle board and filter for worms, and there's actually the stuff that's been worked on, it's available for everybody to see. And right now we just closed a lot of cards having to do with the cybernetic simulation, the processing of the cybernetic simulation to Collada-based animations that I'm going to show you in a while. And work is going on, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the backlog, all the stuff that we're going to do. And as it gets into the to-do column, it gets assigned to people. At the moment, we have Mihai working on some of these cards. I'm doing some of the stuff myself. Matteo is helping with design, and Martin was working on this processing of the cybernetic animation into a Collada-based animation. And also Sergey was helping us produce recordings from Cybernetic so that we could process them into the pipeline that we created. That's also on GitHub. And I'm going to touch on all this stuff as I show you some more interesting visual content, because this stuff is a lot of technical cards and it's relatively interesting. So let's start from the entry point. Just want to make sure that, oh god, yeah, I need to reload these pages so that I have them when I want to talk about them. This is the entry point of the WormSim application. I'm logged in already, but this is the main page when the user is logged in and has created their WormSim. So this hasn't changed a lot. Most of the work that we did on this, Matt helped with last year. And as you can see, there's a mini browser where people can see the worm anatomies, very much with the same model that Christian Grove produced from the virtual worm project. And we have the worm browser as well. And you can see a bunch of layers. These buttons are going away. They're going to become a slider. That's happening. There's a card for that right here. So as you can see, there's a direct correlation between things that are not as they are supposed to be and the board. It's a live snapshot of what's going on with the code base. So the user is going to be dropped in this page, and there's two buttons, and the first thing that is going to happen when they get dropped in this page is going to be a tutorial. And the tutorials are covered in this document. If anybody's curious, there is a link to tutorials here. There's a link in there. And Balázs, as I was saying, this is a collaborative effort. So Balázs, for example, put a lot of time into helping us draft tutorials. And as you can see, there's loads of questions and suggestions because this is currently work that's currently going on. So the idea is that as the user arrives here, there's going to be a tutorial explaining what the stuff is, what happens if you click that button, what happens if you click this button, and give a little bit of introduction. And the same is going to happen when you actually go and click on those buttons. So if you click on this button, for example, explore the nervous system, what happens is that this simulation that we are familiar with is going to come up, explore the worm's nervous system. It's the C302 model that Porek is doing a lot of work on, and it's currently under development. And again, so pretty much this simulation is going to come up, and right now this is not very user-friendly because a kind of a general public-oriented user will not know what they're looking at. So another thing that's going to happen, again, there's going to be tutorials once they jump into that screen, and there's a start for the tutorial here, if anybody's interested in reading that. And they're going to be able to use this simulation and play around with the worm, and there's going to be pop-ups around the screen, very much like the pop-up that comes up when you start Geppetto. That's going to be the style. Yeah, it's not popping up now because I don't show me the tutorial again, but usually there's a pop-up that comes up and starts the tutorial, and I can start it again from here. So if I do that, you see there's pop-ups there. If you click there, there's another pop-up. So the user is going to get guided through load simulation. It's going to be like a guide for the user to understand what's going on. And in this case, I just loaded Cybernetic demo that it's irrelevant for what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's what happens when you click on explore the nervous system, and we're going to the realm of C302 simulation that's going to be improved from the point of view of user experience with a tutorial. So that's also good because we have that stuff.
Giovanni?
Yes?
So what's the timeline on when you want an updated version of that C302? Because that version you show there is the kind of A set of parameters, which is the integrated environment model. Yeah. But a more realistic version will include ion channels and hopefully multi-compartmental cells. But that's probably going to be only progressing significantly after the open source. So what is your timeline for when you want an updated version of?
The timeline is release by the end of June. So whatever we have by the end of June, we're gonna throw in there, and we're gonna make it look good and make it shine and so forth. So that's pretty much the plan. But yeah, so you're saying after May, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should be fine. It's I mean, and the idea with this worm sim stuff is that as we have updated versions of the stuff that we're doing, we're gonna deploy it, and it's not just gonna be one and it stays like that. As we improve our models, it's gonna improve, because also, for example, a cybernetic simulation that we have at the moment, it doesn't exactly move like a real worm. And as we come closer to something that resembles more the experimental observations, then we refine it and iteratively deploy stuff and send out updates. Oh, we have a better model for this. We have a better model for that. But that's the idea. We're building the portal, and everything that we put in there is gonna look great, and we're gonna make it very, very user friendly from their point of view. So yeah. So that's what happens when you click Explore the Nervous System. If you click on Explore the Crawling Worm, this is not crawling, but it will, and I'll show you shortly an animation of this. But this is pretty much is the 3D model that Andre built in Cybernetic, and this is processed by Martin via a novel algorithm to extract collada meshes from a particle-based simulation. And as you can see, those are the muscle cells, discretized. There's 96 of them, same as the worm. And once this moves, they will be individually animated, and there's going to be activation signals associated to each of them. And you can click to each of these muscle cells, and they will move. And as you can see, the meshes are looking quite nice. And we're going to probably improve them a little bit with some textures or shaders and things like that. But this is a test that happened last week that I tried to load all the different collada muscle cells into Geppetto, and as you can see, it's working. Yes?
Can I just ask, okay, so obviously in the original Blender files from Caltech, there were, I'm assuming 95 of these muscles. So why aren't you using those as the basis for this representation?
Because we need to map them. Pretty much the way that they contract is coming from the cybernetic animation. So we're mapping, the cuticle is also coming from the cybernetic animation, and it moves exactly as cybernetic. So if we were to map the meshes from Christian to the cybernetic animation, there will be a not even slight out of sync. So it's hard to reproduce the same motion that we have in cybernetic with different shapes. That's the reason.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I mean, if this is presented as an accurate representation of the anatomy, I mean, the base data for that is that it is where the best representation of that is the original Blender files rather than this file here, which has been processed from what was available in Cybernetic, which I'm sure is a good approximation, but it's still an approximation of the
it is data. And it definitely is an approximation. It will not be claimed that it's the accurate anatomical representation, but it is close. It's an approximation that's coming from the cybernetic model. And pretty much, like if we were to try and match shapes with contraction, with whatever happens in cybernetic, it would be 1,000-fold more difficult to match, and you have to do a lot more processing and very much map those shapes to the other shapes and figure out manually how to contract all of that stuff in a way that it's accurate.
And have you identified which individual muscles? So obviously in this, I mean, ideally you want to be able to click on a muscle and uniquely identify it. So do each of these an anatomical equivalent?
Yes. So each of these muscles will you'll click on them. It's going to come up with the widget that shows you the properties, including contraction, activation signal. So you're going to see the activation signal going up and down, and map this to at the anatomical correspondent to the best of our knowledge. But they're the same number of the actual muscles, so they each of them have an anatomical correspondent.
Okay, but Andre, I think there was, I think in one of the rows of muscles there's actually one missing. Well, there isn't one in the real animal. So I think there's actually only 95 muscles in the real C. elegans, whereas in Cybernetic, I believe, there's 96.
Yes, it's 96. We either stop showing one of them, but yeah, so you make a good point. But yes, so this is coming. Yeah. And what I wanted to show you next is what's happening right now. As you can see from this, we're doing some work to integrate the animation code that I'm going to show you now, so that this picture that is now static is going to move within Geppetto. And that entails taking the code that animates the collada based on bone transformation matrices that Martin worked on, and porting it into the Geppetto code base, and then extending also the back end of Geppetto so that it can stream a Geppetto recording made up from these matrices and the collada file. So what I'm going to show you now is a video that I made of the animated worm. It's pretty much the same movement as you can observe in SPH, but this is based on collada, file and meshes, and bones and transformations per each time step. So I'm sharing my screen. So think of this that you're gonna see. It's gonna appear here in the screen that I'm sharing now with this collada model. The stuff that I'm showing now, this video I'm showing now, is gonna be pretty much embedded in that screen. Can you see my screen? I am iterating through. That's for example the muscles. As you can see, it's quite fluid. This is with the cuticle on, and then there's another one with cuticle and muscles. And it's probably, you can't probably see it very well because over the Hangout it's probably jumping around a bit, but you can see that it's moving, and in particular I like the way that this looks with the muscles. And as soon as we can integrate this into Geppetto, then I'm gonna send around some links and you can see it for yourselves. But yeah, so this proves that this is the result of going from cybernetic to collada meshes coming from whatever shapes Andre and Sergey defined in cybernetic, and then extracting the animation in the form of transformations per each time step, and then reproducing this in an animation in the browser. And now we're going to take this and embed it into Geppetto, and the actual information that animates this comes from the client side, same as if it was a simulation. And people are going to be able to, as I was doing, look around and click, as Porek was saying, click on the individual muscle cells and explore them to the point that they're going to be able to investigate and look in detail at plots of the activation signals. There's going to be also a cuticle that they're going to be able to make transparent, and so forth. And again, there's going to be a tutorial explaining what is it that I'm seeing, what is this, why is it interesting, and so forth. And that tutorial is together with, there's a start here that Balazs helped with. This is more of an introduction to what the user is looking at, and then there's going to be a more kind of oriented towards, oh, if I click here, select a muscle cell, and then what do you see, and then try and tweak this and play with this and turn this around, kind of stuff. So that's what we have at the moment. I think I used up my 15 minutes. Right, Stephen? You're muted.
Hit the wrong button. Yep.
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to share this this diagram, which I think folks already know, but this is the mapping between the muscles that Andre and Sergey put into Cybernetic, and an image that shows the actual muscle cells that come out of Worm Atlas and those kinds of things. And so yeah, I think there is one extra, but they were built in a way where we should be able to assign the names to every single one of them, even though there's sort of one extra one. But there should be a high degree of correspondence between the real muscles as much as we can. not as detailed as the Christian Grove Atlas, but still, it was done, pretty deliberately. So that's what we'll be using to pick out the names. The names are in the upper corner here: MDR, MBR, MBL, MBL. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to add is that, as I was saying, this is supposed to be a container app where, as new things become available in the project, we can just add buttons down there. So, for example, this is something we're starting to explore with Michael as well. If we decided to make available the worm behavior data, we could do it through this. If we decided, if any other thing comes on that is interesting to expose to people or interesting for people to look at via the web, via the worm sync, we can also do that and keep building this catalog of interesting stuff, giving more exposure to the stuff we're doing as part of the project. And one thing that makes me really happy is that this WormSim stuff bridges the gap between a lot of different areas of the project. So there used to be like a lot of effort going into Geppetto, a lot of effort going into Cybernetic, then C302, and now they're kind of coming together in a way, and so it's a nice showcase for OpenWorm, and hopefully a useful tool, both from the point of view of educational tool, and both from the point of view of somebody who actually knows what they're looking at and they want to use this for explorations or for teaching. So that's very much it.
All right. Questions, folks? Comments?
Looks good.
Cool.
All righty. Thank you very much, Giovanni.
Yeah, no problem.
It's good progress. Looking forward to release. It'll be good. Okay, so let's go on to regular updates. So Michael's in. Looks like movement validation is first. What's new, Michael?
Hello. So I can update everyone on what we discussed at our movement validation meeting. That was a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago or so. Jim and Chris Lindsay and I have had some progress. So Jim in particular, thanks. You're showing that there. That's perfect. So yeah, everyone focus on Steven's screen there. One good thing that Jim has worked on is the pre-features. So this was a gap in our pipeline between the contour information from the videos and the feature calculation step. We needed some additional information, including the widths along the length of the skeleton here, and then from the widths obtaining the midpoint of the width at each point to get the skeleton itself. And so that's something that Jim's worked on there. It's a problem that seems trivial, but actually turns out to be pretty complicated, especially if we want to use the same method that the Schaefer lab used. So anyway, he's done that here and kind of rendered it in a plot to make sure that everything's looking correct. I've meanwhile been working on a step earlier in the pipeline, which is this JSON format specification. So here I'm just depicting what that would look like if it was visualized. So you have the contour specified in a serialized format. And moving on, we have Chris Lindsay, a newer recruit, and he's done some great work with IPython Notebook to demonstrate the feature calculation steps. So here we're trying to elucidate exactly how the features are calculated, so that if an end user of the package wants to figure out why a particular feature is behaving the way it is, or if a worm is behaving the way it is, they can see that here more clearly. So here he's demonstrating if you go into the details of this by clicking through the link I have at the beginning of my update, you'll see kind of the step-by-step of how this particular feature is calculated. And here he's using path.range as an example. If you start out with the contour, and then he has a couple more plots in this notebook here showing the step-by-step of how that goes from the raw contour here to calculating the centroid at each frame, and then finally calculating the range. So hopefully that will be useful going forward. So that's sort of been in the progress on the movement validation end of things, but we still obviously have some more work to do. But that's where we are right now. That's our update.
Cool. And you guys met with Matteo, right? Do you want to say anything about that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I can talk about that also. So, yeah, Steve and Matteo and I met on the 4th, and maybe I can share this. Let's see. So this might be hard to see. What if I maximize this? So here we discussed a couple of things, a couple of connection points. Basically, the connection points between Geppetto and movement validation, including again this JSON specification that would allow Cybernetic to, well, first out Cybernetic, I guess, outputs this mesh, and then from the mesh, the missing step is the generation of contour information, and then from that contour information, we're serializing that into that JSON specification, and then inputting it into movement validation. So we discussed the nitty-gritty details of that, and then also, as I'm showing in this screenshot here from what Matteo was demonstrating, there's quite a bit of course, visualization potential within Geppetto, and so the thought there was that potentially the features in movement validation could be depicted not using some standalone cloud app that we were thinking we would use, but instead could be depicted as a widget within Geppetto. That might require quite a bit more work on the back end to make everything integrate quite that tightly, but if we wanted to go that route, it would be pretty slick, because you could see the visualization of various aspects of the worm model, and then right alongside it, you could see a comparison with real worms, and maybe a statistical comparison of the features that are being pulled out of the model, and then also shown beside the features of the real worms. So we discussed we discussed that. That's probably a nice to have down the line. So we're certainly not working towards that right this second. But for now, we want to be able to at least close that loop with the exchanging a file from Geppetto to movement validation, at least as a minimal first step.
So the piece here that I know we got into was sort of how does this skin mesh animation get into be able to be compared with movement validation, and that's basically the JSON format that you're working on.
There you go. That's the key.
Okay, cool. And so you basically will need something that will read that animation that Giovanni just showed and convert it into this JSON piece, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the minimal interaction between Geppetto and movement validation that we need is like, yeah, Geppetto throws us a file. The maximal interaction would be movement validation is like an embedded component within Geppetto, which would be more complicated, but maybe sometime down the line. But yeah, for now, exactly. That's the link right there.
Okay, cool.
That's the red arrow that we're hoping to turn blue.
Okay. Awesome. Well, good. Okay. Giovanni, do you feel like you can update on Geppetto, or should we just leave that for when Matteo's in next time?
I don't think I know enough, because Matteo is moving that stuff along in terms of the sprint meetings with the open source community. There was a new release like the day before yesterday. I don't want to steal that from him, and I honestly don't know enough.
Okay, that's fine. So you just gave a nice summary of WormSim. Is there any other stuff you want to say about that?
No, I just wanted to stress the fact that all those people are contributing to WormSim. So it's I presented it, but as Michael was saying, was talking about different people involved. This list that you are showing, plus Mihai, who's the latest addition, is people who are helping out with WormSim, and also Balash is doing the tutorial. So that's the guys who got involved one stage or the other, and the list is growing.
Okay. Cool. Let's go over to Porg then.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I've been doing various bits and pieces related, some of them only partially related to OpenWorm. One thing that I have been working on a bit in the last few weeks and months is making PyNeuromL a little bit more stable. And this is basically a Python-based module which wraps JNeuromL. So JNeuromL has been traditionally what we've used for running C302 and a number of other running and converting a number of NeuromL models into Neuron and so on. But basically, PyNeuromL is trying to make all that functionality accessible from the Python world, so you can just call a single function, run this model in JNeuromL, and it will run that model. It contains the Java jar for JNeuromL. We'll run it in the background, and you also get a similar function, run this model in JNeuromL, but convert it to Neuron. So through this single interface, hopefully on top of this, you can build this functionality for converting models, running models, loading back in the results in Python, and make it much easier, for example, if you want to create an application for running multiple simulations, for tuning the parameters and so on. This is hopefully going to make that accessible as well. There are some other Python tools, random Python tools for interacting with NeuromL that have been floating around for a while. For example, for analyzing the ion channels, for generating rate activation curves and so on, that will eventually find their way into PyNeuromL. So the plan with that package is to make one Python-based package which does lots of useful things for PyNeuromL, and if something is introduced in JNeuromL, it automatically becomes available in PyNeuromL as well. One demonstration of what I've been using PyNeuromL for, if I can share my screen, is oops. Let me just show this. So I've attempted to update some of my Python application for it. So that's sitting for the last year or two. And what I wanted to do was integrate that with C302, so allow you to use the models that are there in C302 at the moment, optimized based on the description of the parameters in C302, but use that pipeline for generating the models in NeuromL, in Python, in Neuron, from those sets of parameters, but integrated with the NeuroTune framework. So as an example of that, just to show you briefly here, these are some of the parameters that are used in C302. So I've created this package, allowed these parameters which are specified, for example, the specific capacitance, and this is using the muscle cell model that has been incorporated into C302, the Boyle and Cohen model. you can give a set of constraints. We'll go through this in great detail. A set of weights for some of the parameters you want to match your experimental data against, and what the framework will effectively do is, within these boundaries here, vary these parameters of your model. C302 is incorporated into this framework. It will run the model in JNeurML. It can potentially run it in Neuron as well, and try to optimize the model based on this data. So let me just see here. Turn that off. Oops. So this here is some of the output from that. So is that visible there?
Yes.
Okay, so that blue trace was some of the original experimental data that Mike Vella had for current injection into a muscle cell. It's not a very good match at the moment, but I'm not matching on all of the parameters, but basically it extracts some features from that original trace, like the number of peaks, the average firing frequency, the time at the first peak, and tries to optimize the Boyle-Cohen model against that. So again, it needs a bit more work, but the basic framework is there for extracting the features from the data and trying to optimize the model. This here just shows the type of algorithm that's being used over a number of different generations. You have various options within NeuroTune for the optimization algorithm. This one here allows you to specify the number of generations you want to use in your optimization, how often it should mutate, and various other parameters. And you can see that gradually the average of the fitness function is getting better. And there are also ways with some Python scripts in the current code that you can plot the so there's 9 different variables you're plotting, and over the various different generations you can see how these are, some of them are converging quite well on specific values, but maybe in this case here it needs to be left for longer to optimize the model. But again, there's a lot to be done with this, but the general framework is working, so most of what's there with NeuroTune is coming back to life a little bit and hopefully can be used in more generic scenario. The one major shortcoming at the moment is that it's very much focusing on single cell optimization. What will be needed for C302 is the ability to optimize over multiple different traces from different cells in the network. So if you pick certain cells and you need to say that, okay, these need to be firing at a certain frequency, but other cells are less important, then you need to be able to specify those individual traces. So there's a lot more work to do, but hopefully with the code that's there, it's a solid basis for going forward.
So this is great, by the way. So is this in a PyNeurML directory, or is this in a NeuroTune repo, or
okay, it's using PyNeurML in the background for running the C302 simulations. It's using NeuroTune for the optimization algorithms and so on. But the actual script is what I showed the first time in the C302 repository.
Okay, so this is new in C302.
Yeah, so it's c302/tune/c302tuner.py. Again, it's probably not in the best location, but and it definitely needs to be refactored quite a bit. But in theory, it's on there, and I do believe there's an issue on C. elegans NeuroML that Vahid tried to reproduce some of the results and couldn't with an earlier version. But what I might try to do is update this issue from the specific problem changing path, make it into update NeuroTune for optimizing C302, and then use this as a kind of information how to run the model.
Cool. That's very cool. All right, so updates to NeuroTune example under C302 scripts. See new issues. Awesome. And did you get a chance to meet with Vahid then on talking about channel worm stuff?
Yeah, we did. So he's generally quite happy with. I mean, there is a lot of overlap between what I'm trying to do there and what they're trying to do for channel worm. One of his goals was to try to reproduce the original Boyle and Cohen optimization of the model. So they optimized it against the traces, which are in the which were originally in an experimental paper for voltage clamp and current clamp traces for individual cells, and they optimized the traces for each of those. They optimized their model for each of, I think, about 8 different current clamp traces. In this framework as well, that would require an update to NeuroTune to not only optimize against the properties of single trace, but the 8 different traces that were used that were available in the experimental results. So there's things to do there, but he's happy to help testing out with this and hopefully update some of the code to try to rerun that original optimization procedure.
Okay. Okay, awesome. This other stuff is from last time, right? You meeting with
yeah.
Last time. Okay, cool. And yeah, neuroconstruct project. I think that was last time too. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go to some folks I haven't heard from in a little while. So Andre, what's new, man?
Okay. So first I continue my work on a fragment of nervous system connected with gentle touch to C. elegans, especially front part of the body, and how this signal is processed to produce change of direction of movement. If the worm is moving forward and it is touched, then it reverses and starts move backward for a while. So I consider neurons which generate neurons which respond to these signals, sensor neurons, and then analyze their connections to next group of interneurons, then another one. First, second, third steps in this sequence until motor neurons finally at some step. So I try to consider this network and select most important neurons involved in this process to add them to that model in neuron simulator to add to that model which already includes sensory neurons to enhance it, to make it more functional and contain more neurons, connections, and so on, to illustrate, show, and simulate this process. So just continue this work, and I hope I will tell about this in details on next meeting during that 20-minute presentation. Well, next thing is our first PCI-SPH paper. Unfortunately, we received the answer from the editor. We received 2 reviews, one of them contains quite a lot of suggestions for improvements, and it's not so bad. It's quite positive though, but the second review is completely bad. I can share all these texts. Maybe it's a good idea to create a discussion. Maybe we can get some good advices on how to improve the paper, which points from reviews are really good to take them and to follow them to improve the paper. So the final decision is reject. So this journal doesn't want to give us a chance. Maybe it was not very good idea to split all the material into two papers. First describes Cybernetic, and second one describes the worm body, which was created using this Cybernetic. So first paper, as it seems to me, doesn't seem very impressive to reviewers because it doesn't contain, doesn't describe the final result, the worm. So I think I will describe all the situation, share the reviews, and we will have a chance to read it, to discuss, and so on. That's it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because, I mean, obviously, if Cybernetic is generic enough, then it would be better if somebody has a paper specifically on the techniques in Cybernetic, independent of the worm, because if anybody sees a joint paper containing both the worm and the technical details, then they'll just assume that it's only for simulating worms, which is unfortunate.
So the journal was not very of very high level. We tried journals with lower and lower impact factor. So the success was that this journal finally decided to pass our paper to reviewers. In previous cases, there was this step didn't happen. So just the editor thought, no, that's out of the scope of our journal. So
yeah, that's good progress, but yeah, I mean, probably then the best step is to actually combine the two papers, and I mean, maybe if you have some supplementary material with the more technical details, I mean, some of the figures from the first paper, and then try to sell it more as, well, this is a very detailed biological model, which is only possible with the technical advances you've made, then it should be get into some decent journal.
Well, there is also an idea to publish, to try to publish in even more simple or lower level journal. There is a journal called Lecture Notes in Computer Science. We can participate in the conference which our institute makes every year or every 2 years, and we can present this material to the conference as a paper, not thesis or something like this, full paper to be considered by reviewers. But as far as I know, there's it's quite easy to pass all these steps, and there's usually not so much rejects, so they give a chance to improve the paper according to reviewers, and it will be more easier, almost guaranteed way. But this journal is not included in the Web of Science system, only Scopus. for our system is for our rating of papers in Russia, Web of Science is much better than Scopus, but it will be still in English, available for everyone in the world who is reading English papers and so on. If this seems to be a good variant, you can try this one. So that's it for me.
There we go. Okay, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so it's good at least that we get to see what what actual reviewers actually say about it, and I think there are some good strategies there in those suggestions for how to move forward. Even though we've been submitting it to a bunch of places, this is the actual first set of reviews that we got back, so it's good feedback. Andre and Sergey, I just sent you a note to find a time to talk about it in some more depth and dig in. And we've actually got some stuff back, so that's good. The other thing I wanted to also point out is that you might be interested in a new paper on the mechanosensory circuit stuff, Andre.
Yes, sure.
That we tweeted this new one out of Cornelia Bargman's lab was talking about basically how feedback from network states are have an effect on a behavior, and so they're looking at activity flowing through the nervous system and how it relates to the production of a given behavior. Yeah, might be relevant to what you're looking at. Although this is olfaction and you're looking at mechanosensation, it still might be relevant. So I will share this with you as well. This is the basic picture. Odor generates some states, and then it's can produce some probabilistic output. In fact, it's kind of interesting for us. Or there can be a network switch that in one case it's a reliable thing, in another case it's probabilistic. So interesting. All right, good stuff. How about Sergey?
Mostly I worked on cybernetic stuff and some Geppetto stuff. Actually, I have a problem with the Geppetto on my workstation machine, and I'm trying to resolve it, to do it my best, but it's not result yet. Good result.
I know Matteo is going to schedule a meeting, Sergey, and we can look at that together.
Oh,
the next week.
Yeah.
I was talking to Matteo about that. We're going to ask every meeting next week about that.
Yeah, thank you.
What's going on the cybernetic side?
As you remember, you you give me contact of one Russian guy from Holland, or Amsterdam. We met with him, and I introduced him to Cybernetic, more or less. We're talking with him. We talked with him about functional parts of cybernetic code, and looks like he was interested in it. And I think that for now he trying to understood how it works more precisely. But no any news from him for now. Also, I clean up code, some places, fixed some little bugs, and make a little release it on GitHub.
Sure.
So that's all. I think about cybernetic stuff.
All right. Cool. All right. So, and last but not least, Tom, what's new?
Hello. Okay. Well, since last time I sent in a second revision to the neurocomputing paper on the genetic algorithm, so we'll see what happens. Seems positive so far. And today, of course, I got to pitch this at school, the Google Summer of Code.
Okay.
Last minute. Sent out some announcements to the students, like super fast, like today. And my lack of progress, okay, so I'm somewhat abashed, but I have an excuse, which is I had another paper to get out the door, which will be going out the door next week on an artificial neural network that plays Pong. So if we want, and it does play a mean game of Pong. So if we want the C. elegans to play Pong, I'm your guy. Okay, so
Awesome.
anyway, if anybody's interested in that paper, when I get it, the draft finished, I'll post that.
You-
We've used a
you-
couple other artificial neural network, architectures to do that.
But did you see that paper in Nature from DeepMind?
But no.
Okay, they have a Nature paper recently, and I think they're playing Pong.
That is it, Pong? Oh, you mean the
Well,
like the Space Invaders?
27.
Like yeah,
Sorry?
I did see that. That's the
Yeah.
Google thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a different approach. They started pixels, but yeah, that was really impressive. I did see that. So anyway, I think by next time I will have been pestering people to get started back into the OpenWorm. So one of the sub projects of the OpenWorm. So pretty much that's my status. So
Okay.
expect to be pestered soon.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, then in the last few minutes, just some code updates for me. There's been not as much activity in the muscle modeling lately. I've been overwhelmed, sort of turning my attention to Google Summer Code. But since one of the main projects that folks are bidding on will be in this directly related to all that muscle modeling stuff, I'm expecting that we will be back on that in force next month as it starts to kick off. But what I have gotten a little bit back into just on the PyOpenWorm folks on that. So the it's failing some tests. Let's see what's going here. It's failing some tests, and the testing framework actually needs a little bit of work in order for it to be doing the same thing on Travis that it's doing when you run it locally. And that's just because the testing framework kind of ended up being a little kind of over time grew to be a little bit complicated and based on a lot of different environmental factors. And it's actually, we're asking a lot of the testing framework right now. We're asking it to pull in data and check the data, and we're asking it to work on 2 different databases and be based on like multiple different configuration files, and it's really kind of pushing the limits of what the vanilla Python unit testing framework is capable of. So I did some research here over the weekend into how to resolve this, because it's kind of like we're fighting a lot of little tiny battles, and it sort of seems like there's more of like a bigger thing that's needed. So there are actual ways to do what this is, which is called integration testing, so that your code is running on different kinds of data, and you can verify that your code is working correctly no matter what kind of data or environment it's on. So I'm going to invest a little bit of time just to like rework our tests so that we know that they're all passing, and verify that everything is working well. Because again, I want to make sure that this release is not full of bugs, and so we can get them out there. So that's so we're still chugging away on that. Hasn't made as much progress in this month of March, but I think in April we will get more progress on that piece. And then the other piece still on my plate, which I'm still remembering, is to get the hard drives up on torrents. We may be having the opportunity to have another conversation with Amazon Web Services, potentially. We had gotten a grant from them back in 2012 for some server space, which we used. We tried in 2013 and in 2014 to get another one, and we strangely got we had a lot of emails that didn't receive any, didn't get any response. But as of this month, we're back in touch now with somebody within the scientific computing group within Amazon who says that they want to help again. So we're hoping that that might actually bear some fruit. But I don't know. I'm sort of skeptical since we had a big resounding quiet from them for a couple of years. But we'll see. Hopefully we can get some more stuff there, either sort of free S3 space, which would be awesome on the video side, or some EC2 space, which would be cool from like a WormSim perspective. So I don't know. We'll see what we can get. I'll keep you guys posted on what's going on with that and coordinating with them. Okay. So any other updates or questions or comments anybody wants to make here before we close for today? All right, everybody. It's been a great month. Thank you very much for all the updates and progress. I'm excited. We only got a few months left before WormSim release, which I'm sure is going to be another exciting point for everybody. And I'm looking forward to getting the movement validation stuff integrated with the skeletons, and this NeuroTune stuff is really cool. New papers from Tom, mechanosensory circuits, and the next version of paper from Andre. So all good stuff. I'll see you guys in a month in this forum, and I'll probably see you before that and plenty of others.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.